There is a kind of love that makes no noise. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't ask to be seen. It simply stays quietly, patiently, hoping that one day the person you love will finally understand what your heart has been trying to say all along. And maybe that has been you. Maybe you loved someone in silence. Maybe you gave them your time, your loyalty, your prayers, and pieces of your heart they never even knew they were holding. You smiled when they were happy, even when your own heart was breaking. You stayed quiet because you were afraid that speaking your truth might make them leave. But, listen to me, love should not make you feel afraid to be yourself. Love should not make you question your worth every night. You should never have to beg for honesty, chase affection, or wonder whether you matter to someone who says they care. You deserve a love that feels safe, a love where you can speak without fear, a love where your heart can rest, a love that doesn't punish you for being honest, doesn't disappear when things become difficult, and doesn't make you feel like you have to earn the right to be loved. So, for the woman who loved in silence, this is for you. Your quiet love was real. Your tears were real. Your hope was real. But now, it's time to remember something even more important. You deserve safe love. You loved quietly. Maybe nobody knew how much. Maybe you became good at hiding it. You learned how to smile when you saw them, how to act normal when your heart was racing, how to keep your feelings behind a calm face, because saying the truth felt too dangerous. You told yourself it was better this way. Better to stay silent than to risk losing the little connection you had. Better to love from a distance than to speak and watch everything disappear. So you carried it, day after day. You carried conversations in your mind that never happened. You remembered small things they said when everyone else had already forgotten them. You noticed when they were tired. You noticed when something was wrong. You cared about the details, because when you truly love someone, even the smallest things can begin to matter. And maybe they never knew, or maybe they knew a little, but never understood the depth of what you felt. That can be a lonely place to live, to have so much love inside you and nowhere safe to put it, to want to say, I care about you, but remain quiet, to want to ask, do I matter to you? But pretend you do not need the answer, to want to be chosen, but be afraid that asking to be chosen will make you seem like too much. So you became less demanding, less honest, less visible. You tried to make your heart easier to accept. But your heart was never the problem. Loving deeply was never your mistake. Caring was never something you needed to apologize for. The painful part was believing that you had to hide your love in order to keep someone close. Because real love should not require you to disappear. You should not have to make yourself smaller so someone else can feel comfortable around your feelings. You should not have to silence your needs because you are afraid they will call you difficult. You should not have to accept uncertainty as if confusion is proof of love. It is not. Sometimes confusion is just confusion. Sometimes silence is just silence. Sometimes the person you are waiting for is simply not coming toward you, and that truth can hurt. Not because you are weak, not because you were foolish. It hurts because you gave your heart a reason to hope. Hope is a beautiful thing, but when it is placed in the wrong hands, it can keep you standing in the same place for years. You keep thinking, maybe tomorrow, maybe when the timing is better, maybe when they finally see me, maybe when they understand how much I care. But how long have you been waiting? How many nights have you told yourself not to think about them, only to think about them even more? How many times did you look at your phone, hoping for a message? How many times did you read meaning into a few words because those few words were all you had? How many times did you convince yourself that a small sign was enough to keep your whole heart invested? You deserved more than signs. You deserved clarity. You deserved a love that did not force you to become a detective, searching for proof that you mattered. You deserved to know. You deserved to feel safe enough to ask questions. Safe enough to say when something hurt you. Safe enough to be honest without fearing that honesty would cost you the person you loved. That is what safe love feels like. It does not mean perfect love. No person is perfect. No relationship is without difficult days, misunderstandings, mistakes, or moments of weakness. Safe love is not a fairy tale where nobody ever hurts anyone. It is something more real than that. It is knowing that when something hurts, you can speak about it. It is knowing that your tears will not be used against you. It is knowing that you do not have to pretend everything is fine just to prevent someone from leaving. It is knowing that love does not become a weapon whenever you make a mistake. It is knowing that the person beside you does not make you feel afraid of being human. Maybe you have forgotten what that feels like. Maybe you have spent So long loving someone in silence that pain started to feel normal. Maybe you thought longing was romance. Maybe waiting felt like devotion. Maybe being ignored felt like something you had to endure because you loved them. But love is not supposed to be a punishment you prove you can survive. You do not win love by suffering for it. You do not become more deserving because you stayed through everything. You do not have to show someone how loyal you are by allowing them to break your heart again and again. There is a difference between being loyal and abandoning yourself. And maybe nobody ever told you that. Maybe people praised you for being strong. They saw you staying quiet. They saw you forgiving. They saw you giving chances. They saw you being understanding. But they did not see the nights when you were alone with the questions. They did not see you wondering why you were never enough to be loved openly. They did not see how many times you blamed yourself for someone else's inability to meet you with honesty. So let me tell you something you may need to hear. You were not too much because you wanted consistency. You were not needy because you wanted reassurance. You were not difficult because you wanted respect. You were not asking for too much because you wanted to feel safe. You were asking for the things a heart needs when it is trying to love without losing itself. And there is nothing shameful about that. Maybe you were taught to be grateful for whatever love you were given, a little attention, a few kind words, an occasional message, a moment of closeness followed by distance, and because your heart was hungry, even the smallest pieces felt important. But you were allowed to want a full meal instead of surviving on crumbs. You were allowed to say that almost is not enough. Almost loving you is not the same as loving you. Almost choosing you is not the same as choosing you. Almost being there is not the same as being there when you truly need someone. You cannot build a safe home inside someone's uncertainty. And I know part of you may still want to defend them. Maybe they were going through something. Maybe they were confused. Maybe they were afraid too. Maybe they did care in their own way. Perhaps they did. But someone can care about you and still be unable to love you safely. Someone can have good memories with you and still not be good for your heart. Someone can mean well and still leave you feeling broken. Understanding their reasons does not mean you have to keep accepting the pain. You can have compassion for someone and still create distance. You can love someone and still admit that being close to them is hurting you. You can miss someone and still know that going back would cost you your peace. That is one of the hardest things about love. Sometimes your heart and your wisdom do not agree at the same time. Your heart remembers their voice. Your wisdom remembers the silence afterward. Your heart remembers the moments when they made you feel special. Your wisdom remembers how often you felt alone. Your heart says, maybe this time will be different. Your wisdom quietly asks, how many times have you said that before? And maybe right now, you are standing somewhere between those two voices. You are not ready to stop caring, but you are tired of hurting. You are tired of pretending that you are okay with less than you need. You are tired of being the one who understands everything, while nobody tries to understand you. You are tired of being patient with people who never seem to make space for your heart. And maybe that tiredness is not weakness. Maybe it is your soul finally asking you to come back to yourself. Because before you loved them in silence, there was a woman inside you who deserved to be heard. Before you spent so much time wondering what they felt, there was a part of you that knew what you felt. Before you learned to wait for their attention, you had dreams, peace, laughter, and parts of yourself that did not depend on whether someone texted you back. You were still that woman. Maybe you are just trying to find her again. And finding yourself after loving someone silently can feel strange. You have to learn what to do with all the energy you used to give away. You have to stop checking for signs. You have to stop rehearsing explanations for someone who never asked for them. You have to stop punishing yourself for not being able to make another person love you the way you needed. You have to sit with the empty spaces. And at first, the silence may feel unbearable because you spent so long filling it with thoughts of them. But eventually something changes. The silence begins to belong to you again. You start hearing your own thoughts. You start noticing what makes you peaceful. You start remembering that a quiet evening does not have to mean loneliness. You start understanding that being alone is not the same as being unloved. And perhaps that is where healing begins. Not when you forget everything. Not when you wake up one morning and feel nothing. Healing is quieter than that. It begins when you stop fighting yourself for still caring. It begins when you stop feeling ashamed because your heart takes longer than your mind. It begins when you can say yes. I loved them, without adding, so I must keep hurting for them. You can honor what you felt without remaining trapped inside it. Your love can be real, and the situation can still be wrong for you. Both things can be true. You can have beautiful memories and still need to leave them in the past. You can wish someone well and stop giving them access to your heart. You can forgive without returning. You can understand without accepting the same pain again. And you can choose yourself without becoming cold. That matters, because choosing yourself does not mean you stop believing in love. It means you begin believing that love should include you too. For too long, maybe your definition of love was built around giving. Giving time, giving patience, giving second chances, giving understanding, giving pieces of yourself until you could no longer recognize what was left. But safe love also knows how to receive. It allows you to rest. It allows you to be cared for. It allows you to have a bad day without worrying that you will become unlovable. It allows you to speak honestly. It does not ask you to perform happiness every time you are afraid. It does not make you earn affection by being perfect. You deserve someone who is not only comfortable receiving your love, but also willing to protect the heart that gives it. Someone who understands that your trust is not a toy. Someone who knows that words can leave marks. Someone who does not disappear when things become serious. Someone who can say, "Talk to me," and actually stay long enough to listen. Someone who does not make you feel like a burden for having emotions. Someone who does not punish you with silence because you asked for clarity. Someone who makes room for your truth. Maybe you have never had that before. Maybe that is why you kept accepting what felt familiar. Sometimes we call something love because we do not know what else love could feel like. If chaos is familiar, peace can feel boring. If inconsistency is familiar, consistency can feel suspicious. If you are used to chasing, being chosen can feel almost unreal. But you do not have to keep repeating what wounded you just because it is familiar. You are allowed to learn a new language of love, a language where calm does not mean absence of passion, a language where communication does not mean conflict, a language where someone's kindness does not disappear when you become inconvenient, a language where your boundaries are not seen as rejection, a language where you can be soft without becoming unsafe. And perhaps the first person who needs to speak that language to you is, you may be safe. Love begins with the way you stop talking to yourself, the way you stop calling yourself stupid for caring, the way you stop replaying every mistake as if you alone were responsible for everything that happened, the way you stop saying, "If only I had been prettier, quieter, better, more patient, less emotional." No, you do not need to redesign your entire soul to become worthy of healthy love. The right kind of love will not require you to betray who you are. It will ask you to grow. Yes, it will ask you to become honest. It will ask you to face your fears. But it will not demand that you erase yourself. You have spent enough time wondering whether you were enough for someone else. Maybe it is time to ask a different question. Are they safe enough for you? Do you feel peaceful around them? Can you tell them the truth? Do their actions make your life feel more stable or more anxious? When you are hurting, do you feel supported or afraid? When you say no, do they respect you? When you make a mistake, do they try to understand, or do they use it as proof that you are impossible to love? These questions matter because attraction is not safety, history is not safety, chemistry is not safety. Missing someone is not proof that they belong in your life. Even love itself is not enough if there is no respect, honesty, and care surrounding it. You deserve the kind of love where your nervous system can rest, where you do not have to stare at your phone in fear, where you do not have to guess which version of them you will meet today, where an apology is followed by changed behavior, where promises are not repeated every week because nothing ever changes, where you are not constantly preparing yourself for disappointment. And I know there may still be a part of you that says, "But what if nobody else comes?" That fear has kept many beautiful people in painful places. The fear of emptiness, the fear that this person, even if they hurt you, may be your only chance at love. But being afraid of loneliness can make you accept a loneliness that happens inside a relationship. And that loneliness can be even heavier. To sit beside someone and still feel unseen, to receive affection and still feel unsafe, to hear promises and still not trust them, to call something a relationship while your heart feels like it is surviving alone. You deserve better than company that makes you feel abandoned. You deserve better than love that only appears when you are about to leave. You deserve better than someone who notices your value only when they feel your absence. Your heart should not have to disappear before someone finally realizes it was there. And if you loved in silence because you were afraid your truth would not be welcomed, please understand this. Your truth deserves a place to exist. Your feelings deserve language. Your needs deserve respect. You do not have to become louder than everyone else. You do not have to force anyone to love you, but you can stop hiding from the truth inside your own heart. You can admit what hurts. You can admit what you need. You can admit that some people were never able to give you what you kept hoping for. That admission may break something open inside you, but sometimes what breaks open is not your life. Sometimes it is the cage. And beyond that cage, there is still you, a woman who can love, a woman who can begin again, a woman whose tenderness survived even after being misunderstood, a woman who does not need to become hard to become strong, a woman who can protect her heart without closing it forever. You may not believe it yet, but one day you may look back at this silent love and understand it differently. You may realize that it taught you what you can no longer accept. It taught you that you need honesty. It taught you that your heart needs peace. It taught you that being wanted is different from being valued. It taught you that someone's potential cannot hold you the way their actions can. And it taught you that loving someone deeply does not mean you must leave yourself behind.